Hey everyone, welcome to the Fireside Chat number 16 on Crushing Classical, redefining a thriving classical music career. I'm Tracy Friedlander, and I'm so happy you're joining us for this chat. The intention of today's chat was to talk about social media and all the ins and outs of it. Who here hasn't been ready to throw up their hands and give up? I know I have. We started there and went so much deeper than social media. What is behind it? What is the purpose of it? What role does it play in your life as an influencer and someone who's being influenced while using it? We go deep in this talk and really came to this. There is so much more to you than just your playing. You're so much more than your playing. There's an undiscovered human being in every classical musician. Social media is merely a tool to showcase this and get what you want, and at the same time provide value to your audience. Let's get started. Hey Eileen, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. So today on the Fireside Chat, we we are talking about how when you want to create a career, you need to control what you're consuming. As far as like your news feeds in social media and just the way the what you see every day in those feeds determines who you are going to
And
be.
it's more than that, though. It's also who you're spending time with, who you're
Okay.
hanging around in your life. What kind of influence you're getting from people outside of you. Because everybody's got like a circle. Remember how we talked about the narrative before? So there's
Yes.
characters in your narrative, and all those characters are impacting your narrative that's going on in your life today. And so we're going to talk about how is that making you or not making you who you want to be eventually.
Right. Yeah, because if you're hanging around a bunch of people who, only see, um, they only see the negative or they only see what's not possible or they're ready to tell you that what your idea is isn't so good or it's never going to happen, it's not going to benefit you in any way.
Yeah, I mean it's eventually going to be a problem. There's not too many people who can withstand being told that their dreams are a joke, they're not possible, you can't do that. That's stupid, that's lofty, whatever people say to you. There are very few people who can withstand that for any length of time.
Hmm.
Some people can, but they're different.
Yeah, it's really hard when that happens.
Yep.
And people always say that you're the average of the five people that you hang around with the most.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know that I agree with that. I know people say that, but I don't necessarily agree with that. I think because the truth is you can influence five people around you. So you can have five
Hmm.
people around you and you can influence them and raise them up.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be shoved down by five people around you. You can raise them up and therefore raise your entire life. That's a
Right.
choice. So that's why I don't agree. Like, but that's basically what, when people say, you're the average of the five people who hang around, that sounds like you're at the effect of it. I disagree with that. You can change that at any time. You
Right.
can change those humans. You can. You just have to, you got to be stronger. You got to be bolder. You know what I mean?
I think they say that because they don't think people will change the people around. Whoever said that or whoever made up that phrase thinks that you can't change the people around you, so you just have to find other people that are more supportive or something. But I agree with you. You can change people around you.
You
I
can.
get that.
I
Yeah.
mean, you know what that's called? It starts with an L, leadership. That's what it's called, leadership.
Uh-huh.
I understand that, and I get what you're saying. Like a lot of people, probably think, well, you can't change the five people around you, so you have to change the five people around you. Well, that's just you saying, I'm not going to be a leader and I'm going to go find other people who are just going to agree with me. Okay. Really?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's good that we're talking about this because it's a common phrase that you see everywhere, isn't it? I mean, I know that Tony Robbins and people like that have said those kind of things.
Sure. Yeah, I'm
You
actually
know,
not even sure who said it first.
I'm not
I
either.
think it's
It's
been
kind of a
attributed.
thing.
I think it's been attributed to a lot of different people.
Uh-huh.
But I'm just saying I don't necessarily agree with it. And you can see why, because I think you can be a leader in any situation. And
Yeah.
that isn't to say that people don't influence you. Of course they do. Of course they influence you. But I'm just saying you have a choice in the matter. I
Yes.
mean, you have to be strong enough. You really do. You have to be strong enough. So part of what we're talking about is the fact that, let's talk about social media feeds since you brought it up.
Yeah.
So, I hear people complain all the time, and I think we talked about this on a previous fireside chat. People talk about they're really, I don't like Facebook. Facebook is annoying. I don't like it. I don't like my news feed. I don't, a lot of people complain about this, right?
Yes.
And I
Oh,
remember,
and I've
well,
heard
when I,
there aren't there studies like, oh, Facebook causes people depression, and
yeah,
I've had people say to me before, oh, Instagram is making me so depressed, and I was like, why? And she said, oh, everyone's lives are so beautiful and perfect on there. I'm like, you you get that there's like filters for that, right?
hmm
Like you can make your life. It's a collection of photographs.
you can make your life look however you want it to look,
Yeah.
on social media. But a lot of people, though, they do have crappy news feeds. And the reason they have crappy news feeds is because they have, friends that they're following that are complaining about things.
Uh-huh.
Um, so your you're allowing your feed to be what it is, and it is influencing you. It's definitely
Yes.
influencing you, whether you want to admit it or not. And by the way, you may have sworn off Facebook. That's a mistake, but you may have done that. There's so much good that you can get from Facebook, but you actually have to follow people that make your feed great. What you are consuming on Facebook is directly related to what you're going to be. If you want to be great, you need to follow great.
Mm-hmm. I learned this from you. I had no idea before. I had borderlined never going on Facebook.
hmm
I've considered quitting Facebook altogether.
Yep.
And then I go back on it, kind of get sucked back in and start looking at it again and then get disgusted with it. Like that was kind of the roller coaster of
Yeah.
what I did with Facebook before I met you.
Yeah. A lot of people do that too, by the way. It's very common. They go,
Hmm.
oh, it's great. Oh, it sucks. Oh, it's great. Oh, it sucks. So,
Yeah.
and I'm going to tell you some ways, actually. Tracy, I know we didn't talk about this. Can I say some ways that you can fix that? Fix your feed?
Yes,
Okay.
for sure.
So, first of all, this goes without saying. Um, you need to unfollow friends. You can stay friends with them, but you need to unfollow friends that bitch all the time. There's this one chick that's always in my feed. She's a friend of mine. I became friends with her because I made some comments on someone else's, status updates. I'm a big commenter. Let's put it that way. I always have an opinion about everything.
No, you
No
don't.
way. No. So yeah, so I comment a lot, and this girl thought my comments were great, and so she friended me, and I thought, okay, it's fine. I should have looked at her feed before I accepted her friend request. That was a mistake. Because she just complains a lot. She recently graduated from college. She's older. She's around 40, so she got her degree late in life, and she's really having trouble finding a job. She got a like a psychology or a sociology type degree,
Uh-huh.
and she's really having problems with her job search. And I think to myself, gosh, I hope your Facebook profile isn't public, because if any employer looked at your Facebook profile right now, you wouldn't be hired
Right.
because you're miscomplain a lot. I mean, that could be your middle name, miscomplain a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't hire somebody who posted the kind of stuff that she posts. And so I hid her from my feed because I can't take it. I just don't want to see that every day. I'm sorry you're having trouble finding a job. I'm sorry this is difficult. I'm sorry you're going through a difficult time. I do not go on Facebook and bitch about my life. That is not what I go on there for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and here's the thing. I'm not saying you should hide. I'm not saying you should hide how you feel or what. I'm not saying that. But there's this. I'm not trying to portray perfection on Facebook. Um, I am, anything that I post, usually I post funny things, entertaining things, just stuff that I find, interesting articles, things that I think are worth spreading, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
That's what I share. And so that's what I want to see too. I want to see that from other people. And if I'm not seeing that from other people, I hide those people. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to unfriend them. So that's the first thing.
Yeah, and I think it's a relatively new thing where there's a friend and a follow. I don't know how long that's been going on, but um, it might not be new, but um, like where you can friend somebody and then you immediately make sure you hit unfollow, or they're going to be in your feed all the time because you just friended
Right.
them.
And I mean, you can do what I do, which is I watch them for a while. I leave them in my feed. At least lately, this
Hmm.
is what I'm doing. I've gotten a few friend requests lately from people that I've met, like that I know, like Jonathan Fink from, he just friended me today. And,
Yeah.
and I really like the guy. We just talked to him on a fireside chat. And so, of course I friended him because I really like him. Um, some of the stuff he posts is interesting. Now, if he overdoes it or if it bothers me or whatever, I'm going to unfollow him. But it hasn't gotten to that point. So I'll leave somebody in my feed for a while and see how it goes. But if I'm starting to see complaining and moaning and whining and political stuff, especially if I'm seeing a lot of political stuff because I'm really not interested in the political discussion, really, I'm probably going to hide them, you
Yeah.
know?
I know it can consume you if you get involved in a post about something. I read and I wasn't even involved with this. Actually to be honest, this post came up in my feed. And it was an argument about let me think of what it was. It had to do with Trump and there was some arguing about race or something in there, and it just went on, like the feed blew up, like
Yeah.
it, not the feed, but yeah, the feed underneath the comments.
Hmm.
And it was pretty stupid. It was like sometimes you read these things and it's someone and there's one person in there and they're saying stupid stuff and then everyone gangs up on them and beats them up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big problem with the political stuff is that we have such a divided country right now. We've got the people who love Trump and the people who hate Trump, and there's nobody really in between. And so
Right.
when you start allowing politics into your feed, it's going to seep into you. It's going to seep into you because we're so divided right now in the USA. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It's a big problem.
Yeah.
So So that's the issue with that is you really do have to you got to control that. You have to find a way to control that. So that's number one. Okay. Um, the second thing I would say is I always like to say this to people: follow the breadcrumbs. What does that mean? So when there's a post, a lot of people just read posts on Facebook. I think that's silly. You should read the comments because there's a lot of really great people commenting. And that's how I find people to follow.
So this is totally different way of looking at things, because usually what the way that I did Facebook before was I just read what my friends wrote and that was it. But you're saying to find people that you find interesting
Hmm.
who are posting valuable information that you could use in your life or that are educational or something like that. And then you read the comments and you learn more,
Hmm.
and then that might lead you to find another person that you might want to follow
Yep.
and
Yep.
get more awesome stuff. It's like following yeah, like the breadcrumbs of the
Yeah,
grapevine. Like
I
you
really
keep
do. I
going.
call them the breadcrumbs. So, for example, and by the way, I use Facebook for more than just friends. That's boring to me. I don't just want to follow my friends. I want to learn things. So I want to learn about business, marketing. Currently I want to learn about meditation. I always want to learn about health, and vitamins and supplements because that's a big thing for me. I always want to learn about lifting. I'm a power lifter, um, you know, and Olympic lifting. I always want to learn more about. There's certain topics that I really love, and writing, definitely writing. So I always want to learn about those things.
So what you're saying essentially is that Facebook is the internet now. It's like it's the place to find stuff that you don't know you're looking for. Maybe.
Yes.
Because like you go to Google to search for something you know you're looking for, but on Facebook you get information about things that you know you want to know more about, but you don't necessarily know what it is
Yeah.
yet.
Exactly. So you have to
Cool.
look. I mean, you have to
Well, this
look
is
beyond what you know. You know what I'm saying? You have
yes.
to look beyond what you know. So if you want to learn about, you know, marketing and business and all those sort of things. First, how did I find people initially? Well, I read some books. And I started looking, I did some Google searches and whatnot, and it's kind of turned into its own, you know, it's like a self-perpetuating cycle. I find one person, and then I'm watching them in because I'm following them, right? And then, they post really interesting things, and then, smart people comment because smart people follow them because they're smart. And so then I
Mhm.
find more smart people to follow. And so I end up, I'm only friends with a certain number of people on Facebook, people that I know, but I follow a lot of people that I'm not friends with. They're just people I follow that I learn from.
Mhm.
So that's how I use Facebook. Most of my news feed is not my friends. It's mostly all the things that I want to learn by all the people who are teaching it.
And it's funny because I haven't controlled my feed to the level that you have. I found I followed certain people that you highly recommended way back, and I put them as see it first, and those are the first 7 or 8 things that I see.
Hmm.
And but I'm interested in doing this because I think I could get a wider range of things in my feed that would be interesting.
Yeah. Um, there's a lot of people you can follow, and it just really depends on what you want to learn about. And and again, you have to seek this out. This is another thing I would say too to improve your feed. You've got to look beyond your niche. So just because you're in classical music does not mean that you should just be following classical musicians. In fact, that's a mistake. If you want to build a career, you have to follow people that are good at building careers. If you want to make money, you need to follow people who are good at making money. I'm not talking about scam artists. I'm not talking about, it's not what I mean. I mean people who have a proven track record. They are successful in business, but you have to actually go and look for these people.
Hmm.
Just following musicians is not enough. I can't stress that enough. If you really want a career, a career is a multifaceted thing. It's not just the instrument you play. It is how you market yourself or promote yourself, whatever you want to say about that. It is how you sell yourself. It is how you portray yourself online. It is so many things. And so you have to be more than one thing. You have to be more than just a player, and you have to learn about those things. And you don't learn about those things by just following classical musicians. I'm sorry, you just don't.
Hmm.
That's the biggest issue.
Right. So when you say more than just a player, um, can you think of any examples or maybe just make one up, like as an example?
Um, More than just maybe I don't understand your question.
Because you said you have to be more than just a player, and it's how you market yourself and all that other
Well,
stuff. So,
for example, I mean, so, in the classical music world, there's a lot of people who are posting videos of themselves practicing,
mhm.
selfies.
Yeah,
And especially that's happening in the millennial generation because they're sort of
yeah.
the selfie generation. It's sort of the look at me. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist for older people, but I just notice it's very heavy in that range of that age range,
Yeah.
like 18, 17 to I think it's just under 30, maybe 29.
Hmm.
And so the problem is though that doesn't tell anybody anything about you.
Right.
That doesn't tell any. So there's a picture of you. So we saw you practice, and I mean, there's really nothing. There's no value in that. There's no inherent value. The people that I follow don't do that shit. I'm just telling you, they don't. So what they'll get on to Facebook and they'll say, I had this thing happen to me today, and they'll turn it into a story. They'll say, and this is a lesson for you in marketing, and here's why. So they'll take something that happened during the day, and then they'll draw a marketing lesson out of it, and they'll explain why is this important to your business, or why is this. I'm just giving you that as an example, but that actually has value. I can actually use that. I cannot use the selfie you just did of yourself holding your, French horn. I cannot use, there's no value in that for me as a follower of yours. You have to start thinking about this in terms of what value are you providing for people? And by the way, that's directly correlated to who you're following is providing value to you. So if all you're
Mm,
following is selfies and people practicing, what are you going to put out? Selfies and yourself practicing, because that's what you're mimicking, what you see, because you think that's right. And what I'm going to tell you is the reason why I'm smart, the reason why I know so much about business, marketing, whatever, I'm not perfect, but I know a lot. The reason why is because I'm not following selfies. I'm not following people who, people who are
right.
posting meaningless crap. I'm following people who are educating me with their posts every single day. I get smarter from my feed.
Yeah, and you're following people who think about what you might get out of the post
Yep.
versus just not thinking about it at all.
Look at
Because I don't
me.
see,
I mean, the selfie thing is
yeah,
just look at me. Honestly, I'm glad you're pretty. That's great. But you know what? The value you have in this world is so much more than what you look like. And
hmm,
by the way, it's even more than what you sound like too. If
yeah.
all you think that your value is what you look like and what you sound like, you are just a fraction. You only know yourself to be a fraction of who you actually are. You are so much more than that.
I couldn't agree more. But everyone makes it about, and you know what's tough about making your entire importance be about your instrument and who and how you sound and who you play is or what you play is that there's so many other people who do the same thing.
Yep.
So it doesn't you're not actually special because there's tons of other people who do the same
Yep.
thing.
And I think, everybody's doing the same thing because they can't think of anything else to do. Well,
Mhm.
and you know why you can't think of anything else to do? Because you're following all the wrong people. I mean, I'm just telling you. This is how this
Yeah.
works. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. You are going to do what you see.
So how do you find new people to follow on excuse me, follow on Instagram because I know that there's one way of doing it which is to go to the that search thing, but that kind of I think that brings up what you
I wouldn't use that.
might like.
I wouldn't use that.
Right.
No. So the first thing is there has to be somebody, and I would doubt it if this wasn't true for everybody. There has to be somebody that you admire.
Mhm.
Now, there could be several. There could be people you admire inside music and outside music. So I'll give you an example. Maybe you love Yo-Yo Ma. I'm making this up. Maybe you love Wynton Marsalis or Branford, right?
Mhm.
Maybe you love a musician who's in the New York Philharmonic. So those are people that maybe there's somebody who has a career right now. Maybe it's a group. Hell, it could be Pink Martini,
Mhm.
right? So, by the way, Pink Martini has great social media. So, um,
Yeah, so we were talking about that
yeah,
yesterday because
they really
they're
do. I checked them out. So so maybe you love Pink Martini. Great. So that's in music. So you've got them. So pick,
Mhm.
two or three people. First of all, you should follow them and see what they do on social. But now you should pick people outside of music. So, for example, you may love Tony Robbins. You may love, there's so many people that I could pick. You may love Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You
Mhm.
may love Tim Ferriss, who wrote The 4 Hour Body and The 4 Hour Work Week. I'm just using examples of people. Seth Godin. You may love Seth Godin.
Mm.
He's a marketing guy. You may
Yeah.
love Gary Vaynerchuk. There are some very big names outside of music.
Mhm.
And so follow them. So that's where it starts, is you start to follow, and you don't just look at their posts, you look at the comments, because that's where
Mhm.
you start to find smart people. I'm always looking for you can start with big people, but as you start following the breadcrumbs, you're going to find smaller people that are really interesting to follow. I don't follow, I don't follow Tony Robbins, but I follow a lot of people who think Tony Robbins is great, you
Mhm.
know? So it is definitely a process. This is not an overnight thing. This is a daily or a weekly thing.
Yeah, and it's really fun. You've shown me some people that you found by breadcrumb,
Yep.
method. and they weren't very big, and I started watching them and they've grown. So like you can see
Yep.
them as they get bigger and bigger, more and more people
Yeah,
follow
and
them and find out who they
I
are.
even told you on some of those people, I said this guy's going to be huge. This guy's going to
Yeah.
be huge, and they have become huge. I mean, since you followed some of those people a year ago, they're huge now.
Yeah.
I knew they were gonna explode because you could just tell. Because I can see value. I can see when someone is providing a level of value that nobody else is providing. I can
Mm-hmm.
tell who's going to become something. And that's a skill that you just develop over time. I can tell who's going to be big. I always hope I'm going to find somebody in their infancy because I can often buy products from them at a discount, while they're small. Yeah, no, I'm not lying. I mean,
Yeah.
I would rather pay $500 for their product now than pay 2,500 when they're huge.
Right.
That's really how I feel about it. So I'm always hoping to find people when they're small, when nobody knows who they are yet. That's the best time to find them. And often you get the most attention, you get the most, one-on-one contact if you want to learn from them.
Yeah.
They often offer, strategy calls, like one-on-one type strategy calls. I mean, that's great. It's great when that happens. So yeah, I mean, but this is a process. This isn't just something you do once. This is something you always do. I've never stopped doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the key, is this is a process. It's just like practicing. You just get better at it as you do it.
This is inspiring me to mess up my feed a little bit, disrupt it, and get some new people in there. Because you've shared some people recently with me, or post recently.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you. There was one you sent that you shared yesterday, and it sent me off in a research tizzy.
Oh, really? Which one was it?
It was that health one you sent me about
Oh,
the
yeah.
vitamin.
Yep.
Yeah, I had to be like, okay, I have to stop this and work on
I
things
know,
because it
right?
was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was really interesting. And I was going to ask you where you found that guy because he was seemed really random.
Yeah. So where I found him is somebody liked his post, like a friend of a friend liked his post, and it showed up in my feed.
That's cool.
So that's another thing, is when you're following cool people, I follow several people who are in the health and fitness realm. And so that's how that guy, this one post landed in my feed. It was accidental, really, that it happened. But, you know, Facebook does that. If your friends like certain things, they'll show you certain things in your feed. And because I've been liking a lot of health and fitness posts, oh, that's the next trick I'll tell you. Because I've been liking a lot of health and fitness posts, a lot of health and fitness posts are showing up in my feed.
Hmm.
So that's going to be the next piece of advice for you I have about your feed, which is you need to understand that if you are scrolling your feed every day and you're not liking or sharing or commenting, you are creating a feed that is nothing but a crapshoot.
Hmm.
Facebook is trying to show you what you want to see. The problem is if you're not voting, it doesn't know what to show you. So if you're just scrolling your feed every day, and by the way, this is true of Instagram as well. If you are scrolling your feed every day and you're not liking, commenting, or sharing, then Facebook is like, oh, I guess she didn't like that. I'm going to show her a whole set of other things. And people go, I don't understand why I see one thing one week and another thing another week. And my friends used to be in my feed, but they're not there anymore. And I'm like, I'll tell you why. It's your own fault. That's why. You created your feed. That's what you don't understand, is you're not liking, not commenting, not sharing, is you're not voting. And if you're not voting, Facebook isn't going to show, it's just going to keep trying to show you things because it wants you to vote. That's what it wants you to do. Vote. Like,
Hmm.
comment, share. If you don't like your feed, it's your own fault. The only reason I like my feed is because I get in there every day and I like and I comment and I share. And that is instantly, it is influencing what Facebook is showing me in my feed. It's showing me more of what I liked. It's downgrading what I put down arrows on if I didn't like it or if I said nothing about it. If I shared it, it's really showing me more of that. If I
Mm.
commented, the more a share is the strongest vote, a comment is the second strongest vote, and a like is the weakest strongest vote, but it's all still a vote.
It's interesting that you're thinking of it as levels of voting because I never thought of it that way. But I knew that sharing was like the best thing you can do, and commenting is definitely super important because the more that there's comments, the more it gets put out in front of more people to maybe make more comments and everything. But I find that a lot of people don't comment on Instagram as much because it's easy to just scroll and double tap and keep scrolling,
Yeah, they,
you
they
know?
use the heart instead of, making comments. So, and again, you're impacting your feed with every move you make and every move you don't make. And
Hmm.
so, a lot of health stuff is showing up in my feed lately. Why? Because I've been posting about it and commenting on it a lot. A lot of animal stuff is showing up. Why? Because I keep posting pictures, sharing photos of cats. I love cats. And so I keep telling Tracy she needs to get one. I'm like messaging her about it and stuff. And believe it or not, when you message people, that's another vote. When you're sharing a post via Messenger, Facebook knows you're doing that. Even
I
if you
didn't realize
decide not
that.
to do it publicly, absolutely. And so, every move you're not making on your feed, if you're lazy with your feed, Facebook is just going to try, it's going to try and show you stuff you want. But if you don't vote, it doesn't know what to show you.
It's
So
fascinating.
that's going to
So
fix your feed a lot, just so you know. Hmm.
I love that.
Hmm.
So we were talking earlier about the difference between a consumer and a promoter or a marketer, if you want to
Yeah.
say that word. But like, I think the word consumer, I mean, we're literally called consumers, like people that live in the United States. Like on the news, they just call us consumers. Like the consumers are seem to be doing well this month when they spent all
Right.
their money, all their tax return money or whatever. Like
Right.
it's such a capitalist society that we're just considered consumers. But then I think people, I know personally, I don't want to be considered a consumer because that's just like, oh, you're a human who has money that's going to spend it.
Hmm.
You're a meaningless like machine who just spends the money that they get. And so what do you mean by like if you're approaching your social media as a consumer, you're looking at things to consume it but not learn it, or how would that
Well,
be just defined?
so, I mean, there's a way that I define. I don't think consumer is necessarily I don't think it's meant to have a negative connotation. It is what we're called, but
Hmm.
so whenever I am looking at something, it could be a piece of writing or even when I'm reading a book, um, even when I'm on Amazon looking up products, um,
Hmm.
I am looking at it not just as a consumer, but also as a marketer. So there is um, when someone's selling something to you, they have an angle or a position they're taking. And they're making an argument. There's some argument or some claim or something they're making.
Yeah.
So part of being savvy in this world is your ability to switch between the two, to be able to see both sides, to be able to see that when someone's selling you something, there's a motive and they what they say may be true, but there's also a motive behind it. Like they have a reason for telling you that thing in that way because they want to convince you to do something. And the reason that's valuable for you to see that not just as a consumer, but also as a marketer, because that's what they're doing is they're marketing to you, is because you also have something to sell. You also have something to promote. And so
Hmm.
you can learn so much from people who are promoting, marketing, promoting, because now, you can look at how are they positioning this to sell this to me? And now how can I think this is really well done. I'm very convinced, whatever. How can I now take that and apply it to what I'm trying to sell or what I'm trying
Hmm.
to promote? So your ability to see both sides is really important. And it takes a while to be able to see it, but it's one of the best skills you can develop is to be able to see it from both sides.
Yeah. It's a little bit like that transfer of learning we were talking about
Yep.
on that one episode.
Yep.
Um, because you've busted me many times when I'm reading something
Yep.
and you ask me what I got from the post or something,
Hmm.
and I'll tell you, and you're like, you're reading it as a marketer. I mean, not you're reading it as a consumer and not
Right.
a marketer. So you're reading it and you got sucked into the place where they want you to be if you're going to buy from them,
Yeah,
as opposed to seeing how they did it.
yeah.
Oh, it's easy to get trapped in it too, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and what I always say to you is, how did they convince you? And so if you look
Mm-hmm.
back, if you stop being a consumer for a minute, you can look back through the sales letter, whatever it is that you read, and you can think, oh, right here is where I got convinced when they said
Mm-hmm.
this, or when they said this three set of things. Then it was like, oh, that's what really got me. Well, and so you have to look at how you're going to promote the same way. Everybody has something to promote. And if you're not promoting, you're a fool. Tracy and I were joking about this earlier. It is very unlikely. You have a 0.000000001% chance of the president of Sony Records walking by your practice room and walking in and going, I'm going to sign you to my label. That's just not going to happen. You know, that's just not going to
Yeah.
happen. So, if you're not promoting, you're not going to be found. You just need to understand that. You have something to sell. Everybody has something to sell. And if you don't have something to sell, you're going to be, hungry for a really long time. You
Yeah.
really are. And so that's why, so why does it matter, this consumer versus marketer slash promoter? That's why it matters. Because if you want people to buy what you've got, you want to build a career, if you want to sell anything, if you want to enroll anybody in anything, if you have an ensemble that you want people to hear, you've got to be able to enroll people in coming to hear it.
Okay, so
It's very
I'm
important.
really, yes, I'm really glad you're talking about that too, because um, you brought up Pink Martini a little while ago, and we were talking about them, and and you asked me why, before you checked them out, you asked me why I thought they were such good promoters on social media.
Yep.
And I thought about it for a second, and I said the reason is because their feeds aren't filled just with, "Hey, we have a concert in Pasadena. Hey, we have a concert in Phoenix.
Hmm.
Guess what? We're going to be in Chicago." Like that's not what they're doing. The way they do it is they give you a little bit of their story. Sometimes you get to meet the people. You get to know their personalities, like in these little snippets of videos. You get to see who they are, and it's like an ongoing narrative or
There you go.
something.
Yeah. So basically, one way you could say it, and I think we even said it that day, is the cast of characters.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and every
Mainly and there's so many people in the band, but you always are going to know the piano player and the two women lead singers, and then they bring in the other cast of characters here and there, so you get to see who they are. You know that trumpet player, and the violinist, and you see them in the videos, and you get to see what they're up to. But the people that are the main characters are there always doing something, and you get to know who they are. Like, it's so cool. Like, Thomas is the pianist, and you know that he is super into everything retro, like to the point where he drives like a 1950s car, and he always wears bow ties, and he's a character, and that's really who he is, though, because I know him, and he's awesome. But he has these character traits, and you get to see it, and you get to know about it.
Mhm.
And same with the singers.
Well, and that's how, so many bands have gotten famous, by the way. I forgot the name of the band that my friend, this girl that I went to school with.
Echo Smith.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's a really good example. So, I don't listen to Echo Smith, but the mom of those kids, I went to school with her, and
Mm-hmm.
we were in high school together. And one of the reasons why they became so big is because of how they did social. They really did it well. So, if you follow them, you know who each of those kids is. I think
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to call them kids anymore. I think they've grown up a bit, but um, you know who each of one of them is. One of them had a baby like a year or two ago,
Oh,
got
really?
married. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things that have happened in their lives, but they've shared all that, and that's part of it. Is this is part of too. Why are you taking selfies and showing you're practicing? There's so much more to you, and you're not sharing any of that. What a mistake. You're a character in your life, and there's other characters in your life. In my life, my cat is a character. In my life, you're a character. you know, in
Hmm.
my life, there's certain people who, power lifters who are, friends of mine that are characters in my life. So, there are a few other people who are in business, you know, in my circles that are in my life. So those are all characters, So part of what makes Pink Martini so interesting for you is the cast of characters. And
Hmm.
and so it makes our socials so much better. This is what, part of what I want everyone here to understand is that there's a whole dimension of you that you're not talking about, that you're not sharing about. Like you know, I don't know what car you drive, but it could be hilarious. I mean, when I was growing up, I was driving a 1984 Toyota Tercel hatchback. It was a piece of shit. But honestly, if I would have been, I shared it with my twin brother. But honestly, it would have been hilarious for us to talk about that. That
Oh my
it was
God.
our first. Like everybody would have thought that was hilarious. I know they would have because it was. I mean, and sometimes the air conditioning worked. What was seriously.
I just have to tell you, I drove a 1986 Cutlass Supreme and
I can't even
and it
imagine.
was,
That's a huge car.
it was
You're
enormous.
you're like tiny. How did that even work? Did you have to sit on phone books? What? Are you serious?
The front seat was just a long bench.
I know. I've seen those cars. Ooh. Oh my.
And sometimes the power windows would not come up,
Okay, wow.
but only when it was raining
Of
though,
course. Of
you
course.
know.
Yeah.
And also the engine would flood. So I had to do this thing where I would, in the winter, because it was not like fuel injected. So you had to like press the accelerator to get gas in the
Yeah.
engine so it would
Yeah.
start. But if you did it too much, it would flood and then it wouldn't start. So I would have to stick a pencil in this one thing that like drained the gas. I mean, I had to do this.
Wow.
My dad thought he was buying me a nice big safe car, but meanwhile I had all these things I had to do to it. So
Wow.
annoying.
Nice big safe car. Big safe cars are annoying, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh
But
my
anyway, yeah,
gosh.
I mean, compared to the Prius you have now, it's kind of funny. And the Golf, what is it, a Golf? You know,
Yeah, I know they're just run of the mill. That's nothing exciting about that.
right, but
But
seriously, but I mean that's character though. That's what's funny about it is that all those little things that are true about you are actually quite funny. People find those details very funny. It's part of the story. And that's what you have to get is it's part of the story. It's part of the narrative that you're creating about yourself online. It's part of and again, this is why do you want to follow Pink Martini? Why? Because they're so good at creating their own narrative on social. And you can learn from that, not as a consumer, but as a promoter, as a marketer. That's what I
mhm,
mean by you follow somebody and you learn. You don't just look at them as, oh my God, they're so amazing. It's Pink Martini. No, that's not what I'm saying. You follow them and you go,
mhm,
oh, they're so great. But then you go, why are they so great? Then you start to look and then you see
yeah,
what makes them so great. It's that ability to switch between those two minds that's going to make you effective.
mhm,
Think about being effective, not a consumer, effective.
yeah. Because every single musician has a story, you know?
Yep.
What makes you interesting? Oh, you happen to live in New York with six people in a studio apartment. Tell us about that.
Right.
What is that like? You know?
Yeah.
Do you have to sleep in a row? Like everyone's fascinated. If you live in New York, like everyone's fascinated. There's no reason that's the only reason why every movie is that's created that comes out takes place in New York, it seems, you know?
Yeah.
There's this sort of general obsession with New York City. Or, I don't know, there's any number of things that you could talk about. I know there's these people that you follow in the strength training world, and their entire Instagram story is just about all their farm animals. And they have like this running narrative about the deer that, you know, I don't know if he's a pet or he's just like, he hangs out
Oh
because they
yeah.
feed him.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so you always watch and go, oh my gosh, did you see Benjamin today? He's so cute, you
Yeah,
know?
it's funny because I watch the stories for a different reason than probably other people do. She's talking about a weightlifter, and so
Yeah.
she lifts weights and she's really famous, but she's got this farm. She's got this little mini farm, and there's a deer that was I think they nursed him back to health. Like he had some problem and they found him out in the woods and then they took him back to their farm and they helped him get better. And so now he still lives out in the woods, but he comes back all the time because he knows them and they feed him and he's absolutely adorable and he's gotten huge. Seriously, like I remember when he was just this little thing, like this little baby deer, and now he's like a big deer. you know?
Uh-huh.
He's not quite an adult yet. He's probably like in the middle, but I love going on there. I'm always looking for stories about Benjamin constantly because I
It's just
love,
funny that they have a deer named
yeah, and
Benjamin. I mean,
Benjamin, and he doesn't come every day, by the way. He doesn't show up every day. He just comes when he wants to come. And so, but it's always a treat whenever he comes because they always put him on film. They put him on an Instagram story and he's hysterical, you know?
I know, and you know what? I'm thinking about mine because I've struggled a little bit with Instagram stories, and I'm thinking about the cast of characters in my life, and you know, every day my neighbor's dog gets out. His name is Bevy. He's a little terrier,
Hmm.
and he gets out every day, and they don't figure out how not to let him out. So today I was sitting at my desk, and I see out of the corner of my eye something's in the backyard, and I thought, I mean, sometimes I'll have like a raccoon that comes back there, but it's not very often. I thought maybe that's what it was, and it's Bevy in the backyard again. So it's just funny because it's sort of like he's a cast of here. He's one of the characters in the cast, I
Yeah.
guess. You know, my neighbors and the people and the dogs, especially the pets
Yep.
on my street, are definitely characters.
Yeah, for sure. And
So
so, yeah, I mean, and people in your neighborhood are,
yeah,
people that you get to decide who your cast of characters are, by the way, whenever if you're going to put something on social, you get to decide who they are. But just remember that a big part of why people watch you is it's not just for you. It's interesting to see who else is in your life, who you introduce them to, um, who you talk about, and you could even have a cast of characters that nobody's even seen. It's just people you talk about.
hmm
It doesn't even have to be people that show up on camera, show up on film or whatever. It can just be people you talk
right.
about. So, this is what makes your social more interesting. And like I said, where does that come from? Well, it comes from you following interesting people who are doing things like this because it influences what you're doing. If all you're doing is following selfies and people practicing, that's what you're going to be. If what you're following is people who like Pink Martini and people who are putting up interesting narratives and great stories and good parables and really good lessons, um, and teaching you things, then that's what you're going to become.
Yeah.
You have a
I think
choice.
the point is just that social media actually can be educational when you look at it in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, you have to influence it. You have to
Hmm
influence it, and you influence it with your likes, comments, and shares. You influence it by sharing what you want to promote. It could be yourself. It could be, I mean, I post a lot of things about cats. I post a lot of things. I post some things about dogs. I post things about health a lot.
hmm
I post things about writing, business, marketing. There's a lot of different things that I post. And because why? Because I want to promote those things,
hmm
So, you decide what those things are, but there's so much more that you could be doing. And, um, you know, it's so much outside of practicing. It's so much outside of selfies.
Yes.
So there you go.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. So yeah, because I'm just seeing so much, not only just looking at it for as a marketer and as a promoter and how you can do that, but also just the information that's out there in the music world. There's more and more people out there in the music world who are providing value now, um, sharing things online, professional, teachers and stuff, like,
Yeah. Who comes to
like
mind?
Denise,
Yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
and it's great because I think the marketplace is shifting, and there's more ways to get information that you need. You don't necessarily have to be in the same town or have gone to the same university that person teaches at
Hmm.
always in order to get their valuable information that you need. So
Yep.
I just think it's interesting
I do too.
how things are shifting. So
I do too. So yeah, I mean, and this already exists in the business world. I should tell you that
yeah,
all this we're talking about, this has existed in the business world for a long time.
yes,
And I realize that it's new for the classical world.
hmm
New. This whole thing that I'm talking about, where the whole breadcrumbs idea and narratives and you know characters, and people are like, "What are you talking about?" Because they're thinking about, well, my playing. What do you mean? My playing. But my playing. But Eileen, my playing. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to help you guys understand. But guys, not your playing. There's so much more to you than just your playing. That's actually your issue, is that you think all you are is your playing. You couldn't be more wrong about that. You
Mm-hmm.
just couldn't be more wrong about that. And I know that you felt like you've needed to dedicate your entire life to your playing. I'm telling you, the world has changed. Okay? The Sony president is not going to walk by your practice room tomorrow.
But what if the Sony president sees my Instagram feed?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen, you know? And I'm going to tell you, the Sony president is not going to be impressed by your selfies and your videos of you practicing.
Right.
They're not. They're just not going to be impressed by that.
I agree.
They're not. Just period, because nobody is.
I just think that what you're saying too, is that modeling yourself after someone who you think is doing a great job at social and what they're doing in their career is can be done.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know anything about how the social or how the selfie people are making money if they
They're
are.
not.
But
Let me just clear it up
exactly.
for you. They're not. Yeah.
So it's better to look at a group who you know are actually succeeding in a lot of ways and model after them.
Well,
It's okay to not reinvent the
well,
wheel
let's be
here.
clear, and you might be saying to yourself, well, who's doing well and making money? Well, I don't know. Why don't you check the podcast?
Right.
Tracy has interviewed a whole lot of people that are doing very well. They're making careers out of their ensembles, and they're doing it full time. You cannot do it full time unless you're making money. Let's be clear. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, some of them are teaching, which is fine. Some of them have taken, jobs at conservatories or whatever. That's fine. That's not a problem. I'm not against teaching. I'm just saying that you cannot dedicate 50 hours of your week to something that you're earning absolutely no money. That's probably not going to happen. Maybe at first you're dedicating a lot of hours and not making a lot of money, but if you're really hustling, you're going to get gigs. You're going to create gigs. So,
Yes.
if you're looking for people to follow, especially, and you're looking up, you want to know if interesting people to follow in music for social. Obviously, Pink Martini's at the top of the list, but I'm sure there's others. Tracy, you've interviewed a bunch. Is there anybody else you recommend following?
Yeah, I would check out New Deco Ensemble.
Okay.
Their social media, their stuff is, they're giving a lot of videos of concerts, and you can see at least an idea of what they do.
Mm-hmm.
They're not giving as much of the cast a character thing as Pink Martini is at all. I
Which
don't
is
know if
kind of,
anyone.
which is kind of disappointing because New Deco, because Giacomo is super interesting as a person.
Yeah.
And probably there's other people behind it. I don't know who all he's got on his team over there, but probably there's, and that may be, by the way, something you suggest to him.
Yeah, because I think his girlfriend is a social media person. And yeah, so I should talk to him about it, what she said about it, and if maybe,
Yeah, and,
I
and
know
I'll
he's
be
really
honest with you,
busy.
just because someone is a social media person doesn't mean they know how to do social.
Right. I think a lot of people have said
Just
that they're
saying.
social media
I'm
people.
just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody can call themselves a social media person. I can hang a shingle right outside my window today and call myself a social media person. And I
Hmm.
need no credentials for that.
Right.
So just keep that in mind, that just because somebody calls himself a social media person, if you want somebody to run your social media, it's not necessary, but if you do, you should look and see what they're creating for other people, because if they're not doing what you and I are talking about here, they're not, I'm sorry, but that's not a social media person you want doing your social media. You have to
Exactly.
be able to
No.
assess that, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've seen people who say that they're marketing people or social media people, and then you go, well, what you're doing for yourself is, I don't see what's going on here. But to be honest, I haven't found a classical musician or group. I'm going to do a search. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. Right. In order to make a post, because I want to talk about this some more, and in addition to Pink Martini, find some other people who are doing it in an interesting way, because I really find that when I watch a group or a person who's doing it and introducing a cast of characters, it reaches another level for me. It makes me want to find out more. That's what goes on with Pink Martini. I already like the band, but when I see their posts, I go, oh, I wonder if they're going to be around here anytime soon.
Right,
Like it makes me curious
right, totally.
because of the way they do it. So yeah, I'm going to go searching and see if there's people that are maybe less known than Pink Martini and see if they're doing it. I'm just curious,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
I'll report
and
back.
again, this is a project. This is long term. This is not, you do this in a weekend and you're done. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
I think I want everybody to really get that. This is something that you dedicate you know, this is part of life. This is
It's
part of being, yeah,
ongoing.
it's part of being in business. It's part of deciding to create your career. I'm always looking for people who are better than me. There's tons of them. I'm always looking for
Hmm.
people, and if I can find people who are better than me, I can learn from them. And that's what I'm always looking for. Who's doing it better than me, smarter than me, faster than me, more efficiently than I am?
Hmm.
Who knows more than I do about X topic? I'm always looking for that.
How long have you been doing that on Facebook? Just out of curiosity.
Mm, I would say actively since 2009. Hmm.
It's a real habit for you by now.
Totally. It's a
Yeah.
daily thing. Daily, for sure.
So other people in business, would you say that this is how they approach social media too? Or did you
Actually,
didn't?
no. No, actually. I would say the really smart ones are. The really smart ones do what I do.
Hmm.
But we're a little bit in the minority because a lot of people don't think this way. A lot of people they're a lot like musicians, actually. They're very one track mind, you know? I'm
Hmm.
just going to do my work that I need to do every day and then I'm going to log off. And that is the most short sighted thing you can do. You have to incorporate some measure of learning and skill, like skilling up and knowledge. You have to incorporate some of that every day. If you are not doing that, you're a fool. You will never be better if you're not doing it every day. So
Yeah.
seriously, every single day I'm learning something. I'm getting
Hmm.
smarter every single day. And if you're not doing that, you're a fool. You're a fool. You will stay exactly where you are.
Yep.
Just just know that. And so are all business people doing that? No. The smart ones are.
Hmm.
The smart ones are. So,
So this is just solid gold information that's a very small minority of people are actually even doing, even in the business
yeah,
world.
even in the business world, yeah, I mean that's kind of embarrassing to say because it's always been available to us.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you really I mean, you have to want to be better. I'm never satisfied with the level where I am. Um, I'm always trying to be better. I'm always trying to improve what I do, how I do it. I'm never going to be satisfied on any given day. And I don't mean that in a really negative, disempowering way. I mean, I just know I can do better all the time. I'm not the greatest and I want to be. And so I'm always going to try and get to that next level all the time.
Yep. And I think musicians are like that with their instruments. I know I always have been, and you probably were when you played clarinet. And so all that needs to happen is you just need to transfer that kind of attitude to your learning
Yes, about your
other
career,
skills
about building
in
a
your career.
career. Yes, exactly. It is. It's the
Yeah.
same thing you're doing on your instrument, except you're learning about promoting yourself. You're learning about promoting yourself on social, present how you're going to present yourself on social,
Hmm.
how you're going to sell, how you're going to find your audience. What you're going to sell. What's your career going to look like? You have to think outside the practice room. That's where it all happens. So all these skills they're incredibly necessary.
Yes.
So
100%. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that wraps it up. This was a lot to take in. This is a lot to digest. I think the first step is just unfollowing your friends
yeah, I mean, unfollow not all of them necessarily, but the
or
ones,
just the
the
people.
ones who,
Yeah,
yeah, the ones who they're not making you better.
exactly.
I think is the best way to say it. If they're not making you better, they need to go.
Yeah, and you don't need to unfriend them, but you
You
can
can
keep
hide
them
them.
and just unfollow.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
unfollow. They don't know. They don't know that you unfollowed. Well, I mean, they'll notice after a while, like you're not getting comments on your, they're not or sorry, you're not commenting on their stuff. They'll figure you
Hmm.
aren't following them, but I don't, I don't really think anybody cares about that.
Right. So I think the first step is to unfollow the people who aren't enriching your feed in a way that helps you, and then add following people who you admire. Like you said, you
Yeah,
listed a bunch of examples. So I think that can be their first steps between now and next week.
right.
Make
I
it a
mean, yeah,
goal,
and that
you
takes,
know?
I mean, and that can take you, an hour.
Right.
Clean up your feed and start following, and definitely, you should definitely follow Pink Martini and watch what they're doing.
Absolutely.
It's
A
really
hundred
cool
percent.
to follow them. They really, they really do great social media.
They do.
So
Awesome.
cool.
Well, all right. Well, thanks, Eileen. And thank you for joining us on today's Fireside Chat. If you are enjoying this conversation, join us in the Facebook group. We're talking about what we talk about on the Fireside Chats in the Facebook group. It's called Classical Cats, facebook.com/groups/Crushing Classical. And then, as always, we're posting on Crushing Classical Facebook page and Instagram page. So we'll see you there. And if you're loving this, please write a review on iTunes. And we'll talk next time. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.